how can Texas make it all the way to the championship?
I'm going to take the first round.
Go, please.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're going to take Texas, and we're going to go ahead and say, yes, they processed Clemson. Because on paper, they really should be a better team. Like, I think that Texas,
That
across
makes
the
sense.
board, if I'm just pointing point for point, I think on paper, better team. They get over it. I think they're a little more potent than Clemson offensively.
Right.
I think defensively, they're either as good or slightly better. So I'm going to go ahead and bump them in.
Secondary can definitely lock down Cade Klubnik in the passing.
Right,
Yep.
right. Like Cade Klubnik, I think, is good. I don't know if head-to-head with the Texas defense, he's going to be a different striker.
Right.
Okay, you're on to round 2.
Okay, so now we'll do this game real quick. I'm gonna do this. I'll be a homer. Okay. Now
Might as well.
the best thing for Texas in this matchup would be for Tennessee to come up with a huge upset, right? Because Tennessee, I think there's still big question marks with them offensively and just how sustainable that is for 4-game stretch. All right. So still in this one though, the better football team is
100%.
Oregon. So this would be a Texas-Oregon matchup. Now, why does Texas beat Arizona State? They beat Arizona State because they have more depth, essentially, on every phase of the football team, right? And that's the defensive line, right? The linebacking core, and that's really the group that we would highlight too in this one, right? Cam Scatterbo, he's the man, right? You got to stop that guy, right? How do you do that? Well, that's Anthony Hill. That's Benda, the two linebackers that have been playing phenomenal football right there and making sure that they were doing a great job of reading some of that RPO passing game and then converging in the middle of that defense and making big physical hits at the line of scrimmage on Cam Scatterbo. So that's how they would get that victory. And then, I have full faith that they will be able to be efficient and balanced running the football, right, with Wisner, but also still be aggressive with their skill group and the passing attack with their receiver, running back screens, and their double plays off of those.
Okay, let's execute part 2 of this.
Yes.
Okay.
Since we're just having fun here. Oh my gosh, look, SMU upset
Wow.
them.
Okay,
Crazy.
this is fun. This is fun. Don't yell at us. All right? Yeah. Yeah, that's right. This is fun.
You told us to do this part.
This is
okay?
entertainment.
This part's for us.
Yeah.
Here. Oh,
Let's
look at
give
that.
one to Notre Dame.
Sure,
Yeah.
We'll give one to Notre Dame. We'll give one to Notre Dame here, but we'll also assume here that Georgia advances because they're a better football team.
That's right.
SMU and Boise State. The Quirky Bowl, like the most interesting. This is the Indy
That's
Bowl,
actually an
right?
amazing
It's the
name.
most fascinating
Yes.
thing is what happens.
Yeah.
But let's go ahead and bet on Ashton Jeanty. Wow, there we go.
Love that.
Yeah. Now this gets us 2.
Okay.
Let's just say Georgia bottles up Boise State.
Right.
The dream dies here, and Georgia.
A rematch of
Texas Oregon.
the SEC.
All right, so you want me to take this one?
Sure, yeah.
All
Go
right,
ahead.
so Texas, Oregon. This is going to be a phenomenal matchup for us. And this is where I think for Texas, it definitely is one of those, you can't be one-dimensional and super pass happy.
Right.
You have to do exactly what Penn State did in the Big Ten Championship. You have to run the football consistently with Contravian Wisner, right? And how is that? Multiple formations, the shifts, the motions. You have to confuse the Oregon defense, spread them out as much as possible, and then be able to, have those aggressive, explosive runs.
Yeah.
If they're one-dimensional in this football game, I think it plays into Oregon's hands
Makes
in
sense.
their secondary. But I think overall, Texas, with their defensive line and their skill group, right, the defensive back group, I think that they can cover Oregon. And I think that they can make it very difficult for Dylan Gabriel. With their defensive line, I think they can collapse the pocket. And Dylan Gabriel's not the biggest passer, right, in the country. If you can make him feel even smaller in the pocket, I think this is where Texas has a huge advantage over Oregon and collapsing
There
the
it
pocket.
is.
One real specific one here, hands up, hands up. This is
Hands
something,
up.
yeah, you can definitely do this along the defensive line.
That's
And
right.
disrupt that quick game, because if you don't disrupt that quick game with Oregon, you are DE dead.
That's a great
Dead.
point.
Now, Texas,
Third
Georgia.
time's a charm.
Third time's a charm.
I will tell you, first of all, I don't have to get you to buy into this because it was 22-19. It was already.
We saw it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We saw it. It was already real close.
Yeah.
I also feel like Texas can learn a lesson because 2 games in a row they've forgotten something. They've forgotten the interior run game. They've
Right.
really decided to work on the perimeter, and it has not worked. I will go ahead and assume a dangerous thing that somebody will learn a lesson and that they will focus
Yeah.
on the power run game like Texas has in the 2 games prior leading up to the SEC championship game. So lean on that. Demand that Georgia score, because if you're able to put up some points and then off play action and getting some space in the secondary, you exploit some deep shots, you score some points, I think it can happen.
And Texas passed the football extremely well against Kirby Smart and this team, right? And not necessarily where it was like 50-50 footballs and all that. Like, it was really concise and calculated shots down the football field where they were getting people wide open. In the second half, a little bit different. But to your point, right, to piggyback off that, Texas and Sarkisian, be patient with that interior running attack. I think for Texas at times, they're so used to being able to move the football explosively down the football field in these big chunks that they kind of are like, oh, a gain of 2? Well, we actually lost yardage on that play because of how they think. And that's where Georgia, I think, did a great job. Couldn't run the football well in the beginning of the game, but we're like, hey, we're not going to leave it. We're going to continue to be patient, being physical between the tackles, and eventually late in the game, you saw Etienne and Frazier hitting some big ones that were big in that game. So Texas, take a page out of Georgia's playbook in that one.
And that's how you beat Georgia finally.